Hi, I'm Chris Koetke, and I'd like to give you a quick 101 on how to cook ribs. There's several different kinds of ribs you can buy at the store, and each one of these ribs will take time to cook. One of the important things about cooking ribs is that you have to give it time, low and slow heat. Now let's take a look at the different kinds that we have here. Right over here we have spare ribs, and here we have baby back ribs. Now both of these come from pig. And these over here are short ribs, and they come, well, they're beef, and so they come from a steer. And short ribs, you can see, are nice and meaty. There's a big chunk of meat right on top of this flat bone that's actually the rib bone that's been cut into pieces, and then some fat on top. These short ribs take a lot of low and slow cooking, and then once they're done, they literally melt in your mouth and have a big hearty flavor. The more common ribs that you see are the baby backs and the spare ribs. Now the difference is where these ribs come from on the pig. The baby back ribs come from, well, the back of the pig, and they're cut right off of the backbone right here of the pig. These ribs tend to be a little bit smaller, kind of cuter ribs, and they cook a little bit faster than the spare ribs. Spare ribs are sort of from the side part of the animal all the way around to the front and tend to be meatier ribs, heavier ribs that require a couple more hours of cooking to get them nice and tender. In the case of both of these ribs though, what you'll notice is this is the outside of the rib, and if you flip it over, this is the inside of the rib. And there's a membrane here that you really want to do your best to remove before you cook the ribs. And what you do is just sort of grab a little bit with your finger, pull it up, and then just cut along the ribs. And you want to take as much of that off as possible, because that's a membrane that doesn't really get very tender as you cook the ribs. Again, to remove this, it does take some patience. And notice what I'm using is a paring knife. There we go. And it's tedious. But the advantage of removing this membrane is that when those ribs come off the grill and they're really tender, you can just about pull them apart and they just literally melt in your mouth. All we have to do at this point is season them up. You could just put salt and pepper or put your favorite dry rub on the outside. And then you're going to cook them low and slow. And remember, if you have lots of patience, it will pay off because you will have delicious ribs. To get other helpful tips, go to betterbarbecueblog.com.